Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, I'm going to be looking back at some NBA trade grades from some of the more notable trades that we've had in the last couple of years. And this is something that I want to continue to do, so if you guys have ideas for trades that you would like me to look back on and see what people had them graded as, then be sure to leave those down in the comment section below, and I will absolutely do them. But let's go ahead and just get right into it. So starting off with Kyrie Irving being in the news seemingly every day at this point, we're going to begin with the Cavs sending Kyrie Irving to the Celtics for a package that included Isaiah Thomas. Now, beginning from the Cavaliers side, they acquired Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and the Nets' 2018 unprotected first, and SI has this rated as an A+ for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It says Cleveland was in a difficult position after Irving's trade request. The draft had already occurred, and teams were unable to trade free agents they signed in early July, but somehow the Cavs are coming out of their deal with Boston with both short-term and long-term benefits. For next season, which could and ended up actually being LeBron's last in Cleveland, the Cavs will be very competitive. Thomas is a downgrade from Irving, but he's still a tough scorer coming off of a borderline MVP campaign who should be able to fill the bucket up alongside LeBron. Now, the issue with this is, obviously, this was completely wrong. This was not an A+ for the Cavs. Obviously, you could have said that Kyrie would have just ended up leaving eventually, and they were in a tough spot, as this article said. But really, the only thing that they got any kind of value out of was whatever they got in return for Isaiah Thomas, which could be like a trade rewind topic. And then the pick that ended up being Colin Sexton, which has had mixed results for them so far this season. And the big issue that came out of this for the Cavs was just that Isaiah Thomas wasn't healthy. The hip injury that he suffered with the Celtics and has continued to struggle with just never really was something that he was able to recover from, was never remotely close to the same player anywhere outside of Boston. And so saying that he was coming off of a borderline MVP campaign was true, but that didn't necessarily mean that that was going to continue based off of his potential injury issue. And that's obviously where things went wrong at first here for the Cavs, and then some other things followed it. But from the Celtics perspective, SI gives them a B because all they did obviously was acquire Kyrie Irving. It says, after years of hesitation and false starts, Boston finally gave away a Nets draft pick, and it feels slightly underwhelming. Irving is a great scorer who is also young with a better contract status than Thomas moving forward, but he has serious deficiencies as a defender and was never able to lift Cleveland to respectable heights without James. The thing that's kind of weird to me about that statement is it says he has serious deficiencies as a defender, as if Isaiah Thomas didn't. I don't really understand why that's in there. It says, but the deal is far from a failure for Boston. Irving's an upgrade over Thomas. His deal runs through next season, and his age is better aligned with Boston's core. And all of that makes complete sense. Obviously, this is something that might need to be regraded down the road if Kyrie does end up leaving this summer, which is becoming, in my opinion, increasingly likely every single day, because they did end up giving up a significant future asset in the pick that became Colin Sexton. Who knows who they would have picked with that selection, but with the Celtics' history of being able to develop young players, or at least recent history with Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens, that probably would have been a pretty significant asset. The Isaiah Thomas thing, he had value when they traded him. He doesn't have value anymore. So a B is probably... It should be better than that now, I guess, assuming that Irving stays. But that's the thing about this trade, is just everything's so up in the air with Kyrie. If Kyrie stays, this is a home run for the Celtics, because they basically gave up Colin Sexton for Kyrie Irving, which everybody would do every single time. And then for the Cavs, the A+ was a little bit too much for sure. Next up now, once again at CBS Sports, we have the Blake Griffin to the Detroit Pistons trade. And this is one that was just super interesting at the time, because the Clippers had said, oh, Blake Griffin is a Clipper for life. We're going to keep him here forever. He's a big part of our plans, and then traded him a few months later after giving him a gigantic extension. Starting off with the Detroit Pistons, it listed as a B-, says the Pistons made a decision that is sometimes easy to overthink. They gave up a lot of key players and assets in their current system for a star. Is that going to make the future a little difficult? Yes. Tobias Harris has been fantastic for them for the entire season. Avery Bradley was a disappointment, but he still played a major role in big minutes for them. However, sometimes it's really as simple as adding a star player to the roster and figuring it out from there. The Pistons weren't in a position to go out this summer and sign a star. They had to be productive and make a move. Now, at the time, Van Gundy was still there, and he was in charge of basketball operations. And I made the case that this was a move that was intended to try and help him save his own job by trying to snag the 8th seed, which didn't end up happening. And obviously this season, Blake Griffin has been outstanding for the Pistons. Whether you want to question his fit alongside Andre Drummond and some of the other issues they might have, that's fine. But giving up someone like Tobias Harris to prove to be extremely valuable and a pick as well in this, I'd say that's probably about right with a B-, a B, somewhere around there. For the Clippers, though, this is the more interesting part. because they obviously gave up the best player in the deal, being Blake Griffin, but they got back a ton of assets that have helped them continue to move forward towards 2019 free agency. They got out from under Blake's deal. They got Tobias Harris, who they ended up flipping, obviously, this season to the Sixers. But at the time, they got a C-. It says the Clippers' future right now is a complete and total unknown. It can go in a large variety of directions, whether that's bottoming out, a retool, or just an overhaul with the same goals in mind for a different roster. Now, at the time, that was seen as a disadvantage, but now that's called versatility, and people are saying that it's great that the Clippers have so many different directions they could go in. It says the cap room they're gaining in this trade along with the first-round pick gives them the exact kind of flexibility, as I said, that they want. It's why they can approach this plan so openly and just adjust as decisions are made. But I'm interested to see why they have this listed as a C- then. It says, in terms of what the Clippers acquired for a star, it was a good trade. Still struggling to see the C- part. But at the same time, they probably hurt their perception among future free agents. Los Angeles sold Griffin this offseason not being the future of the Clippers. He bought into the face of the franchise after Chris Paul's departure and was supposed to be an all-time great for them. This is a bad look for the Clippers organization no matter how it's spun. So I guess their grade is coming more from how they treated Blake and trading him so quickly after saying that he was supposed to be their guy and a Clipper for life. Maybe not so much about the talent and the assets that they got in return. And I could see that, but I would prefer them to grade this more on a basketball perspective than an optics kind of perspective. So having it as a C-, in my opinion, is certainly a miss. Next up now, we have the Kings trading away DeMarcus Cousins to the New Orleans Pelicans. And the interesting part to me right off the bat is the subtext here. It says, blockbuster deal sets up a new superpower. I don't know about all that. So the New Orleans Pelicans received DeMarcus Cousins and Omri Caspi. They gave up Buddy Hield, Tyreek Evans, Langston Galloway, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. Now, I'm going to give my reasoning for this before I read some of the explanations here for the trade. Obviously, the Kings ended up absolutely winning this trade because the Pelicans lost DeMarcus Cousins in free agency, partly as a result of his injury, partly as a result they didn't want to necessarily pay him. And the Kings got back Buddy Hield, who's a big part of their team right now. And the other guys aren't crucially important. The pick wasn't crucially important. But Buddy Hield basically is a huge part of what they're trying to do moving forward. Has been outstanding for them this season. And in exchange, the Pelicans got someone that's not on the roster anymore. So keep that in mind. Grade for the New Orleans Pelicans on CBS Sports is an A+. It says, are you kidding me? Did Dell Demps take Vivek Ranadive and Vlade Divac to Bourbon Street to complete this deal? How did they pull this off? Dell Demps was considered to be at least on a mild hot seat. He's obviously been fired since. The Pelicans were scrambling, trying to just get over 500 and failing to do so, and everyone was saying they were crime against basketball for failing to get Davis help with his incredible production. Well, they got him help. Keep in mind what the Pels didn't give up here. Davis, Drew Holiday, multiple first-round picks, each one more, Solomon Hill. Remember that time that Solomon Hill was considered an asset? Tim Frazier and Demonis Montejunas. At the very least, Holiday should have headlined this trade, but because he didn't, New Orleans has a talented two-way point guard to get the ball to his big. So obviously they thought, as I'm going to be completely clear, everybody thought at the time the Kings got basically nothing in this deal. And if Cousins had ended up staying with the Pelicans, they still probably would have won the trade, because if you're just looking at it straight up between Buddy Hield and Boogie, Boogie's obviously the better player. The injury came into play. They didn't bring him back, all that. But having this as an A+ at the time is probably something that a lot of other people would have shared in that opinion. For the Sacramento Kings, we already talked about the trade possibilities here. They got an F. They had an absolute F from CBS Sports. It says the central idea behind this deal is the Kings' belief that Hield is a top 5 pick talent. He's 23 years old, while Cousins is 26. You're banking a lot on a 23-year-old rookies who had a very mediocre rookie season overall. Even if you believe that Hield is the next coming of a late bloomer Kobe Bryant, you could have at least gotten Drew Holiday or multiple picks. The surrender cobra is streaking across all of Sacramento tonight like a virus. This is a disaster. Now again, this is an opinion that a lot of people shared at the time, that somehow the Kings got no value out of a player in Boogie that had issues but was still one of the better players in the league. And again, Hield was not playing very well for the Pelicans. He was not seen as some great asset. Vivek Ranadive apparently had huge aspirations for him in mind, and it obviously ended up working out once again because Cousins did end up leaving. But this was extremely lopsided, at least it seemed extremely lopsided at the time. Last up now, over on SI, last trade of the video. This is one that was another extremely lopsided one at the time, and that is Paul George going from the Pacers to the Thunder. Starting off with the Thunder, the grade that they gave over on SI for this trade was an A-. Says that there are a few angles to unpack here, but the most important is Westbrook's future in Oklahoma City. While every franchise worries about its stars skipping town, Oklahoma City was staring at the possibility of trading away James Harden, losing Kevin Durant for nothing in free agency, and then being forced to trade Westbrook to guard against another free agency defection in 2018. George fills multiple major needs for the Thunder. He's a secondary scorer who will alleviate Westbrook's unsustainably high workload. He's a quality, versatile defender who can credibly check elite wings like Durant and Kawhi Leonard in a possible postseason matchup. Nevertheless, the obvious longer-term risk must be factored into the analysis of this move. George has indicated that winning and returning to LA are among his top priorities. Oklahoma City will never be Southern California, and will the Thunder be able to put things together quickly enough to win at the level that will satisfy George? So obviously, at the time, a lot of people thought that what the Pacers ended up getting for Paul George was not very much, but the risk for the Thunder and why they got the A- here, I'm assuming, as opposed to an A or an A+, is because of the possibility that they would have given up Sabonis and Oladipo for a rental on Paul George, and then he would end up leaving for LA the following summer. That obviously didn't end up happening, and he ended up staying with OKC, but it was a huge concern of a lot of people, myself included, and a lot of people were shocked when PG did decide to come back. For the Pacers, their grade is a D. It says Pritchard made the right, difficult decision to trade George early so that the franchise could move forward, but the return leaves so much to be desired. In Oladipo and Sabonis, he acquired 2 rotation players with some degree of untapped potential, but no real shot at star potential. Oladipo went on to become an NBA player and an all-star, obviously. He also inherited a significant contract, the $84 million owed to Oladipo, that is most likely going to look no better than mediocre as it unfolds. Obviously, Oladipo now, as an All-NBA and All-Star player, has one of the better value contracts in the league among players on All-NBA and All-Star teams. There is this small consolation. By sending George to the West, Pritchard ensured that the Pacers would only face him twice next year and kept him away from their conference's elite teams. Will that really matter, though, if the Pacers can't crack the top 8 in the weekend East? That's how bad people thought this trade was at the time, or at least the people at SI thought at the time. I definitely was in the camp that the Pacers did not get enough for Paul George. They didn't even know if they were going to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, they ended up doing much more than that. And even after Victor Oladipo went down this season, they've still been very, very good, are going to be a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. But again, this trade, the Boogie trade, the Kyrie trade, and to a lesser extent, the Blake Griffin trade, are all reminders that just like with the NBA draft, just like with any trade, we never really know how good a trade is going to be until down the line. Even things that we think are as sure things as the Boogie trade and the Paul George trade and the Kyrie trade, even things that we think are that sure of a thing at the time, or at least some people think are that sure of a thing at the time, don't always end up being that way. So this serves as not only just a video for me to put up that I hope you guys enjoyed, but also a reminder to kind of pump the brakes a little bit on just saying overwhelmingly this was an outstanding or this was an awful trade. But with all that said, like I said at the beginning, if you guys have any other looking back type videos or any other trades you would like for me to look back on as a part of this specific series, then be sure to let me know that down in the comment section below. But once again, my name is Tucker. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.